And how do you interact, and how do you get rid of that awkwardness, and how do you, even though you say I'm not biased against it, it makes people uncomfortable. So Tanya is a parent. She's an incredible advocate for her son Jackson and all other children. And then we're going to go to Sean Himes, and he's going to tell you his story. So I think it's going to be really a fascinating speaker time for you, and then we will send you home with pizza because we don't want you to starve and you'll be eating on the bus. Don't tell your moms we didn't feed you because we will send you back with some food. So without further ado, Tanya. Come on guys, welcome!
Do you need me to use my phone? Can you hear me?
You do. And I have no cards because I'm old. I don't know if you guys realize that. So my PowerPoint's not working, which I'm super psyched about because I had a whole visual for you. I wanted to thank Mary Louise Cohen and the task force for inviting me here today. I also want to thank Dr. Johnson for doing such a great job and making me super nervous to come present to you afterwards. Incredible job, really. Wasn't he awesome? I saw it. Okay, so I am Tanya Mancini-Weiss. I'm a Bayshore graduate. My kids are Bayshore students. My husband was a Bayshore graduate. My kids happen to be fourth generation in the district. And we met in high school. We did not stay together. We went away to college. We got back together afterwards. And that's just a little bit about us. And here's a picture of us. Right here. Sorry. Okay. James and I moved back to Bayshore when our son Jackson was born. He's 10 years old now. I also have a 14-year-old who's at Bayshore High School, and Mariah. Next slide is a picture of her. She's great. I'm really proud of both my kids. She is in drama club. She performs at the Bolton Center. She plays softball. She plays basketball. She's a really great student. I hear she might be looking at the peer support group. I don't know. Let her know. She's really just an excellent kid. And that brings me to my son Jackson. He is 10 years old. He's in 4th grade. He's a football captain of a PAL football team. He plays baseball every spring this is his 5th year now. He's joining a bowling league this winter. He loves to bowl, with his grandpa's been teaching him. His favorite movie is Star Wars. His entire room is now Star Wars. That was his gift last year. I don't know. And he loves to read Harry Potter with his dad every night before he goes to bed. And here's the big picture I want to show you. I want you to close your eyes and imagine what Jackson looks like if you don't know him. He's in 4th grade, 10 years old, loves Star Wars and Harry Potter, plays baseball, bowls, and he's a captain of a football team. Raise your hand if you saw a little boy in a wheelchair. And that's where I want you all to be. He's just a boy. He's in 4th grade, he's 10, he loves Star Wars and Harry Potter. Okay? So, he's nonverbal, which means he doesn't have a language that you or I can understand with using his words. However, he's extremely social. If you see him anywhere, he wants to give you a high five. He has probably 10 to 12 words that have meaning. He has a lot of sounds that we know what they mean, and he uses a communication device that he's learning how to use now so that he can communicate in a more typical fashion and get everything that's inside his brain out here into the world. But the reality is he's just a boy, and that's what I want to talk to you guys today about, is that kids with disabilities are just kids, just like you. And everybody in this room, I know we're talking about bias and we're talking about all sorts of uncomfortable things, right? That's my favorite part about what you said. So many good things, but it's uncomfortable to talk about something that, you know, maybe we don't know about or understand, and so we're like, hey, how's it going? And we kind of move away from it. But at the end of the day, everybody just wants to be seen, they want to be understood, and they want to be loved. True? Yeah? Awesome. Okay, so Jackson's been involved in football in the Bayshore PAL for 5 years, and what that coach has done, and here's where I have another really cool picture, it's one of my favorite pictures. He's standing on the sideline, and he's in his wheelchair, and right next to him is his buddy on the field, and all the way down the line is all the guys. Some of them are injured, one's on crutches, there's a coach here, there's a lineman here, and he's just one of them, standing right in the line, right? And that's where we want to get in this world, where we don't say, hey, there's you, but you're just human, right? You feel the same things that I feel at one time or another, right? Did I single you out? Are you the one that forgot to ask a question? Oh, that was Jason. Okay, just checking. All right. So it's a cool picture because it's just all boys and they all love the sport and they're all just hanging out together. And I know you guys have been kind of taught, this generation has been taught since a young age that bullying and being kind is really, really important, right? Second grade, bullying conference, right? No bullying, don't be mean. We're not in that Leave It to Beaver stage anymore where we're walking down the hallway and we're slapping books and we're going, I mean, maybe you are now to your best friend, but you're not doing that to be mean to one person. So we're talking to you about not bullying and being kind, and you guys get that, and we are squashing that epidemic. We still have a lot of work to do, but we're doing a lot to make that minimized, right? So by the time you're at this age, now we're talking about inclusion. So what does that mean to include everybody? What does that look like? Which is kind of what I think I was asked to come and talk about was how do we interact with respect and include those with disabilities? So you're in Target and you see me. I don't know if you know what a picture of me in Target looks like, but it's me pushing a wheelchair with my son. He's usually holding 1 or 2 items because he wants to be involved, and I'm dragging a shopping cart, okay? And you kind of do one of these, and you're not really sure what to make of that. You know, the easiest thing to do is just smile, right? Smile is universal, or say hi, or just kind of react in a positive way. But what we do is sometimes we stare, sometimes we smile with a, oh, poor kid in a wheelchair. Guess what? He doesn't care, okay? And sometimes we look away because we don't know what to do. We're a little uncomfortable. We're not really sure what to say. And sometimes we look away because we want to understand, but you don't want to ask me, right? You're in Target, I'm in Target. You don't want to say, hey, how's it going? What's your son's name? But that's the easiest way to interact and include anybody. Hey, how's it going? Love your Star Wars shirt. Oh, you go to Bayshore? Cool, you're on a football team? And this is the most important thing that I can get across to you, to anybody, anywhere, is just engaging eye-to-eye contact, saying hi, and including that person in the world and just treating them like another human is the way that you do it. But we don't want to be uncomfortable, and we don't want to make me uncomfortable, right? So we just go about our business. But if we want to become a world that interacts with each other, we really have to kind of have those conversations and be uncomfortable for a half a second so that we can ask questions, get the knowledge, and then understand. Okay. One of the things that I really believe is happening right now is that we are reaching a new level of empathy and inclusion when it comes to people of all abilities. And I think that's really, really exciting because I think it's about embracing and celebrating our differences. And the only way to do that is to ask a question. So if Jackson and I are with a toddler, 3, 4 years old, or a young child, 5 or 6, do you know the first thing they say to me? Why is he sitting in a wheelchair? Does he walk? How come he doesn't talk? They just ask, and they don't ask out of meanness. They want to understand why he's different. And I think that probably is the best lesson we can learn as young adults and teenagers and even adults, is that asking with respect and true curiosity to understand somebody else, let's have those hard conversations. Let's do it. Let's make this world a place where it's not like, ooh, I don't want to talk about that. He's in a wheelchair. Guess what? If you pretend he's not sitting there, doesn't take away the fact that I have a son in a wheelchair. And if you pretend that the mom over there with the son that can't control himself for whatever reason, if you pretend it's not there, she still knows. I still know he can't walk or talk. So just engage, be involved, make eye contact. So I'm a little thrown off because some of this was up there, so I apologize. Just a little bit about CP. So this is the big thing that I believe in. Education is the way that we learn, right? So cerebral palsy, reduced down to CP. It's basically when you're born with a lack of oxygen at or around the time of birth, and your brain is injured. So the neural pathways in your brain don't work the same as a typically developing brain. And there's a lot of different ways that we've dealt with CP over the years. There's therapies, there's been a lot of development. One of the coolest things that I think about is that in the last 50 years, we've come a long way. So cerebral palsy used to be something that they didn't think you could handle at home. So there were medical issues, so they would take your child and they would say, you know, we're going to put them in a hospital and they're going to be taken care of medically. And they were, but they were removed from their family and they just saw their family once a week. So now we go to the next generation, and there's this wonderful lady, Corinne, who rides where my son rides horses. Next slide. There he's on a horse. He rides a horse every week too. And Corinne is in her early 30s, and Corinne, by the time she was your age, had 23 surgeries on her body to try to correct the CP. Because, well, now we have medicine, so now we can make it that Corinne can walk. And she is so grateful to the doctor that's helped her get to the place that she is. But now we're at this place, and we're saying, okay, what if we just do all these different integrative therapies, horseback riding, swimming, get him into schools, get him into chairs that are make it accessible, get him equipment that helps him communicate, and I just can't wait to see where we go from there, okay? That's just a little bit about CP. That's my little education piece on CP and CP awareness. If you have other questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Just a couple of things that I want to share with you. There's a great book called Out of My Mind by Sharon Draper. It's a book written from the perspective of a young lady with cerebral palsy who is nonverbal and everything that is going on in her brain. It's an excellent, excellent read. It's probably a middle school, early high school level reading. And then the other thing that I love to do is we watch as a family Speechless. It's on ABC on Friday nights, I think. And it's Minnie Driver and Michael Fowler. He sits in a wheelchair. He's one of the newer actors who has a physical disability who's actually playing the role. So very small amount of roles are cast with actual people with disability. Now we're moving towards that in Hollywood. We're going, hey, this should be played by a person with CP. That makes sense, right? So that show adds comic relief and just like silliness to the fact that this family just has regular problems. They just happen to have a member of the family who's nonverbal and who rides in a wheelchair. And so my family likes to watch that. It's a great show. So that's my spiel on cerebral palsy, just because I believe that knowledge leads us to understanding. But I also just wanted to share with you a little from the heart. I'm going to try to look away from the note cards. I apologize, guys. Welcome to Holland was kind of the name of my talk. And Welcome to Holland was a poem written in 1987 about making a trip to Italy. You're going to take a trip to Italy. You learn the language. You research everywhere that you want to go. You get really all packed up. You're excited. You get your airline tickets, get to the airport, get on the plane, and you land, and you get to Holland. Welcome to Holland. Like, I don't want to come to Holland. I plan to go to Italy. I'm not. What's going on? I don't know where I'm going here. I don't know the language here. I don't know where I want to visit here. But the reality is that if you're constantly concerned about being in Italy, you miss Holland. And Holland is beautiful. It has beautiful lush grass. It has beautiful scenery. It has so much to offer you. There's a lot for you to learn. And that's the lesson that I learned from Jackson. I wouldn't change who he is at all. Because what he brings to us is taking in the moment right now and appreciating where we are. Even if we plan to go to Italy, this is where we are. We're here in Holland. I share that to say that I don't think that kids with special needs or disabilities have it so much harder. They just have some extra things to deal with. You are all dealing with the same thing, so there's lessons to learn from different people and their different experiences. Okay, so here to talk about interacting with respect, right? How do we interact with respect? The first thing I will tell you is do not feel bad. Do not feel bad. Everybody is a human. You're all struggling with something. I'm struggling with something. And Jackson happens to be one of the happiest kids I know. He's super social. He loves to be part of whatever is going on. And when someone feels bad for him, he's kind of turned off. He doesn't want to interact with you. So don't feel bad. Speak normally. When you speak to somebody, anybody, even somebody that's nonverbal or doesn't understand everything that you're saying, speaking loud doesn't necessarily change that, right? Unless they're deaf, it does not help. So you speak normally and you say, hey buddy, what's up? Give me a high five. Love your shirt. If they're nonverbal and they can't respond back to you, you can ask questions that are not yes or no questions or an interactive question. And if there's someone with them, you could kind of say, hey, what's your son's name? Or is this your son? And that kind of thing. Does that make sense? Yeah? Awesome. And I would also say, this is like just a little bit of my thing. Avoid the baby talk. For some reason, my son's smaller in stature too, which is typical. People tend to say, oh, hi. And then he hits himself because he's like, don't do that to me. I'm 10 years old, I'm in 4th grade. I want to talk about Harry Potter and football, and you're talking to me like I'm, 3 or 4. So that would be another piece of advice I would give you. And then I would say ask how you could help. If you see somebody that's maybe struggling, sometimes I'm in Target or I'm out somewhere and I am struggling. And if someone says, can I help you? I might say, yeah, man, I really could use some help. And there might be another time where I say, no, I'm good, I'm fine, I don't need help. But ask, right? That's an easy thing to do. And then I would say the last thing to do is to ask questions. Ask questions to anybody, disability related or otherwise, It's the only way for us to get to know each other and to kind of be here together and to function together. And I think that's pretty much all I have. I just wanted to tell you a little bit about 2 campaigns that I really believe in. One is the Just Say Hi campaign. It's from the United Cerebral Palsy Foundation. It is literally that. Just say hi. Hi is universal. Hello is a way to engage anybody, right? Hi, right? And you can wave and you can smile. And the founder of United Cerebral Palsy Foundation, his son has CP, and he found that people weren't engaging him. So he just came up with this campaign that if we could just get all the kids in New York City public school system to learn to just say hi to anybody, then maybe we could break down barriers and we could get to know about each other. And the other campaign that my daughter brought to Bay Shore a couple of years ago that I think is catching on to the Northeast, it's big on the West Coast, is the End the R Word campaign. And that is in the first Wednesday in March. And it is a campaign to stop the use of the word retarded. So, the word retarded, I said it. Right, that's not a word we're supposed to use, but we use it, right, in the hallways, the lunchrooms, whatever. The word retarded used to be a medical diagnosis. We've since moved away from it. But then it started to become linked to a negative connotation, like your behavior is so ridiculous, right? So now you're saying that my behavior that's part of my disability is related to your ridiculous behavior. So we're changing that word from retarded to respect. And it's a campaign started by a young man with Down syndrome on the West Coast. So if that's something you're interested in, that's one of my favorite campaigns too. That's in March. And that's about all I got. And I'm
Thank you for my appreciating my photo also. Any questions? Oh man, that slide would help you.
So, my first thoughts when I found out that my son had CP. So we were driving on Route 80. We lived in New Jersey at the time. Don't judge me. My husband was finishing his schooling. We lived in New Jersey, and Jackson had been transferred to Manhattan. And we were driving, and he looked at me and he said, "You know he has cerebral palsy, right?" And what I wanted to do on Route 80, going 65 miles an hour, was throw open the door and jump out. Because don't tell me that I now have to deal with this. I did not want to be a mom of a special needs child. I did not want a handicap pass. I did not want any of the things that come along with that. I didn't want to belong to that club. It wasn't where I wanted to be. And I say that only to bring it 10 years later and say, I wouldn't change it for a second at this point. Awesome question. Any other questions? Oh. What part of everyday life with him is the hardest for a parent? So the hardest thing for me is not knowing what he wants to say. That's definitely the hardest thing. Him not being able to walk. He has a ton of different devices. I really wish I had the pictures for you guys, because He has something that helps him stand to walk. He has something that helps him stand that has large like wheelchair wheels, so he could be interacting with you or I in a standing position. And then he has a wheelchair. And he spends a lot of time on the floor too. He likes to, he can crawl around and get around without the use of his legs. But not knowing what he wants and not having him be able to communicate. Could you imagine if you couldn't tell your mom or your dad or whoever what you wanted to eat, what show you wanted to watch, and they had to just keep asking you, do you want a hamburger? Do you want grilled cheese? Do you want french fries? Do you want cat? And you're like, I just want popcorn. I just want popcorn. And so that's probably the hardest thing for me.
You do? Yeah.
Awesome question. So how does he communicate? So he has this brand new device called a core scanner. So he doesn't, so JJ on Speechless, he has a red pointer and he points to the words, and then he has a person that reads the words for him, or his family can read it for him. And in Out of My Mind, she types into a computer and it gives an output. Jackson, my son Jackson doesn't have the fine motor skills for that, and he also has a vision impairment. So he doesn't have the visual skills for the red eye. So he has this brand new thing that's called a core scanner. It has 2 buttons, and the first button scans a word for him. It scans, so we have tons of different menus for him, but it scans what he wants to say, and when he gets to what he wants to say, he pushes the other button for the output. Now I say that, he's really in the beginning of learning it. That's why it's very difficult, because that's a lot of motor planning. Like, I have to push this, then I have to push that. So we're working on that daily right now. The biggest way he communicates is through yes or no questions, though. Say one more time. Okay, so how does he handle schoolwork? So he goes to Arthur Prem, which is the BOCES building. And he loves school. He loves to learn. He is very smart. Everything is modified in his classroom. So he has a pair of scissors that are modified. He has larger pencils and grips that are modified. All of his math is done with manipulatives so that he can use them that way. And he loves to read. So I think the biggest thing to understand, though, is that his demands on school are at his ability. His goals are for what he can reach right now. So how old was my daughter when she had a full understanding that he had CP? I told her from the beginning. She was about 5 when he was born, a little under 5. I have a very close friend who's a social worker. I said, what do I do? And she said, you just tell her the truth. And so we really told her right from the beginning, even at 4 years old, Jackson has a boo-boo on his brain. It doesn't work the same as you or I. He might not be able to do these things. The thing is, though, a lot of my family still doesn't have a full understanding of how he operates, and she understood it at 4 and 5 and 6 years old. She doesn't see him any different. She gets mad when he interrupts her. So she said, do I ever blame myself or the doctors or anybody else? Yes, everybody. And close friends of mine will tell you I spent the first couple of years pretty much blaming everybody. Myself, the day before, so he had lack of oxygen at birth, so, and my husband happens to be a physician, so why didn't we go to a better hospital? The day before I didn't feel well, why didn't I go quicker? Doctor messed up. We pursued a lawsuit. At the end of the day, I can't change what my 14-year-old daughter deals with every day. I can't fix it. I can't fix the stuff that she goes through as a 14-year-old 9th grader, and I can't fix what his journey is. So I've come to the place now where I don't blame anybody, and I just accept it. Awesome question. No. The one where my son says the most is no. But his biggest thing is woohoo. He is like super excited about most things. So if you tell him like, hey Jax, that's pretty cool, and he goes woohoo.
Last question.
So he does have Braille and enlarged Braille and a ton of different Braille things, but again, his hands don't have the fine motor skills to do that, so we kind of moved away from that, so we don't use that anymore. Final question. Awesome. So how does he play football if he's the captain? So he does not play, and to be very honest, if he was able to, I don't think my husband would allow him to play. But he goes out to the circle, he throws the coin toss, he stands with the captains when they have their meeting, and he stands on the sidelines the whole time. He's the safest kid on the field. Thank you so much, guys. You've been awesome.
Thank you so much. I'm so sorry your technology didn't work. So I see all her pictures on Facebook, and Jackson's an amazing, amazing kid. So is her daughter. And I'm so thrilled that she was able to come share her story. But what I would like to do is ask, for the next speaker, I'm going to ask him to be introduced by Doug Smith.